Hey everybody, welcome to the Sharpening Report. I'm your host, Josh Peck. You know, if you ask most Christians who would be watching a video like this if they think we're living in the last days, most would say yes. A few more studied Christians would add that, well, we've been living in the last days for the past 2,000 years, citing the first two verses of the book of Hebrews, which says, long ago, at many times and in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets, but in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed the heir of all things, through whom also he created the world. Now, it has been taught that the early church thought they were living in the last times and expected Jesus to return in their lifetimes. But surprisingly, as has just been discovered in our modern time, this actually might not be the full story. It might not even be true. There's a whole concept of ages at play here, where you could almost think of them as dispensations. Don't let that phrase scare you, but that's where we're going to be headed. And in fact, there's an ancient prophetic calendar that points to our time right now as extremely significant for what is about to happen. When that was written in Hebrews, they were nearing the end of their age, and now, 2,000 years later, we are nearing the end of our age. We're going to get into all of this.
Concerning the economically unstable times that we live in, it is a great idea to convert some of your savings into real money. Now, there is a big difference between real money and what we call money, which is actually just currency. So our dollar is currency, which fluctuates. Real money, on the other hand, like silver, for example, is a store of value over time. The best way to think of it is like this. If you had saved $1,000 in cash back in the late 60s, the late 1960s, that $1,000 would still be $1,000 technically, but it would buy you significantly less today due to inflation. Now, if you had saved that same $1,000 in silver back in the 1960s, today it would be worth around $28,000. So one of the best ways to protect your purchasing power is in real money, more specifically, silver. You can buy and have the metal shipped discreetly to your door, and what most people don't know is that you can actually convert your IRA or even a 401k into physical silver rather than having all of your life savings tied up in the paper fiat system, which is subject to hyperinflation. Go to dailyrenegade.com and click on the Cornerstone Assets Metals banner. This is the only company that I personally trust with this kind of thing. Click on that and sign up to get your free silver report today. One of the financial experts will speak with you to find out the best way to protect your savings going forward in these uncertain times.
Now, if you followed me for any length of time, then you're at least somewhat familiar with the Dead Sea Scrolls calendar. If you're not, if you're brand new, don't worry. Hold on the line because we're going to be talking about it in this video. But basically, according to the ancient Essenes, the Dead Sea Scrolls calendar, that's what we call it today, this was actually the original calendar given to Adam and commanded by God for the Hebrews to follow. When you match up this calendar with all of the dates and day counts in the Bible, historical and prophetic ones, they all match up perfectly to this calendar. There is no other calendar in existence that can boast that. And in fact, the Essenes used this calendar system to predict the coming of Messiah and when he would die. You know, the Essenes knew that this was Jesus when Jesus came on the scene because they were expecting him during this time. And it's because this calendar is that accurate. By the way, that calendar is that accurate for our time too. And I believe God allowed this calendar to be rediscovered in our days because these are, in fact, the last days. Now, again, if you're not familiar, don't worry. I will be getting into more detail later in this video. But first, I want to announce, for those that do follow us and are already familiar with some of this stuff, that Dr. Ken Johnson, who helped recreate the calendar on dsscalendar.org, and I have our Dead Sea Scroll 2024 print calendar available now in the link in the description of this video. It is a wall calendar, comes in several different sizes, and there's even a poster one available that has the entire layout of all of creation. And we're going to look at some of that in this video. I'm going to explain how that works. So we actually have two versions available right now. We've been doing this for about, I think this is our third year doing it. People love it. It's been a big hit. And we're excited to make this available. I really wanted to get this out before Christmas, but unfortunately I wasn't able to. I got it out like 3 days before Christmas. And a lot of that was because I recently moved, and the hard drive that had all my Photoshop files on it was lost for a little while. Then I found it and was able to update the calendar for this year, for 2024. So it is available now. Of course, they make great gifts, but they're good study tools too. And good conversational pieces. Have one of these in your, have one of these hanging on your wall. It shows the normal like our calendar. It shows our calendar on the bottom, and then on top it shows the corresponding Essene calendar. So it is a real working calendar that you can use day to day. And I want to show you some of these calendars and explain kind of how they work. Then we'll get into the rest of the video. So I'm going to open up my file here. First, I'm gonna let's take a look at just the cover. So it's called the Ancient Dead Sea Scroll Calendar, and this is from 2024 to 2025. But you'll notice it also has this 5949 AM date. What is that? Well, according to the Essene calendar, it has been 5,949 years since creation. Yes, they were young Earth creationists, believe it or not. And from the very beginning of the calendar, we've been able to recreate and backtrace all of this. So AM means Anna Monday, or it's just like, you know, since creation, the age of the world. So we have just hit 5949, or actually, technically, we will hit that in March. So their calendar begins in March, ours begins in January. So when you get the print calendar, it begins in March, and then goes all the way through February of 2025. So there's still plenty of time to pick this thing up and buy it for your friends and stuff. And it was created by Dr. Ken Johnson. He's got an online version at dsscalendar.org. And then, so what I did was I took with his permission, of course. And by the way, all the proceeds from these calendars go. Me and Ken split the proceeds, so you're supporting his ministry and you're supporting mine as well. So it's the Ancient Dead Sea Scroll Calendar, and it was created by Ken. He put the calendar together, and then I in Photoshop, and I did various graphic arts things to put this all together into a physical copy that people can have in their homes. And it's great to have the physical copy, because the free online one is great, but sometimes it can be difficult to kind of scroll through months, especially if you're trying to do your own day counts and study prophecy and stuff. It's a lot easier to have a flip calendar that you can just count out dates on. So that's the cover. Let's just look at the first page here. Let's look at March. I'm not going to go through every single month, but I just want to show you a couple of these so you can see how this works. So every year begins on a Wednesday, and because the ancient Essenes, they looked at Genesis literally, and the first day of the sun and the moon was the fourth day. So you count from 1, 2, 3, 4 from Sunday, and you get to Wednesday. So every year begins on a Wednesday because that's when the sun was created. It is a solar calendar. It's not a lunar one. According to the Essenes, and again, we'll get into more of this history in further detail later, but the Essenes said that the reason that the Pharisee calendar was so different, what eventually turned into the modern Jewish calendar they have today, the reason it's so different is because they made a deal with a pagan ruler who was invading at the time. It was probably Antiochus Epiphanes, and part of that deal was that they had to adopt the pagan lunar calendar. So a faction of Jewish people broke off because they thought that was completely inappropriate and moved to Qumran, and that was the Essenes. They held on to the original calendar. And this all happened during the 400 silent years, which, again, we'll be talking about later. Well, what's interesting about this calendar is it has some extra feast days. The feast, it has all 7 that you find in Leviticus, but there's some extra ones too. For example, Spring Day of Remembrance. They also have Tekufas, which are 4 days that help balance out the calendar that aren't counted as a part of the calendar. So it's a 360-day calendar, but with 4 Tekufas, sort of like dividers. It divides seasons. It divides 3 months by 3 months by 3 months by 3 months. And this helps keep the calendar all intact. And then they also have a leap week. So every 5 or 6 years, the week resets. So you're always gonna have your first day sometime, usually around mid-March. So in this, you get Passover, which this year in 2024 would be, according to the Essene calendar, on April 2nd. You get the 7 days of unleavened bread, which is all lined out here. And then you get something called first fruits of barley. And there's so like I mentioned, there's extra feasts that occur on the calendar. There's first fruits of new wine, for example. And I write about this. I wrote a book called Lost Prophecies of Qumran, and I go into great detail about all of this, how the entire calendar works, all of the Essene history, all these new feasts, what they have to do prophetically with the Bible, and how this all connects, and proving that this calendar is completely accurate. You can match it right up with the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and it all fits. Let's take a look at another month here. Let's go with April. What do we have going on in April? So here you have things like the counting of the Omer. You have second Passover, which that was actually instilled for if warriors were out at war, or if there were people that for reasons could not travel, could not get to Israel in time for Passover. There was a second Passover for people like that. And again, I write about that in the book as well. Then we can go to June. Now we have Summer Day of Remembrance. And also, if you notice at the top, all of the months, they have their original names here. Now, some people would say, well, Tammuz wasn't the original name. That was like a paganization name. Well, that's the name that we have. We don't have the original names to all of these months. Some we do, some we don't. Tammuz happens to be one of the ones that we don't, so Ken just took the earliest one that we could trace back to. So we have the Summer Day of Remembrance, and here we have another Tekufa before that. And see how it all lines up with these Wednesdays. Then you have count to new wine. So they would count to the next festival, which was new wine. That was June. Let's go to July. So see, on July 21st, first fruits of new wine. We don't know much about what that festival entailed, but we do know some things. Seems to have something to do with marriages, and specifically in terms of Jesus, probably has something to do with the marriage supper of the Lamb and the covenant and things like that. There's also new oil, which has something to do, we believe, with prophecy, possibly the 2 witnesses. So like I said, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but this is, and by the way, this is just the top half that I'm showing you right now. When you actually get the calendar, you're not only getting this, there's a bottom part. So normally when you get a wall calendar, there's a picture on top, and then there's your regular calendar on the bottom. Well, on this, the Hebrew calendar, the Dead Sea Scroll calendar is on top, and then on the bottom is our normal calendar that we use in America, and it has all of our holidays listed on there too, so you can actually compare and see how it all works. It's a really useful tool. So I showed you up through July, and yeah, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but it has all of the regular feasts, and it has some new feasts as well. Now, the second calendar I want to show you is our circle poster calendar, and it looks like this. Now, I know that looks complicated, but it's if you read through it, it's pretty self-explanatory. So just understand that the ancient Essenes, they believed in a 7,000 year total creation. So from day one till the new heavens and new earth, that would be 7,000 years. And they said that the week, our normal 7-day week, is modeled after this. So they broke down their ages, or they broke down their periods of time, like how we have millennia and centuries and decades. Well, they had things like that too, but the year counts were a little different. So they had normal years. They had a Shemitah, which was 7 years. They had a Jubilee, which was 50 years, an Ona, which was 500 years, and an Age, which was 2,000 years. And this circle calendar shows all of that for all time. So I have this year, this would be starting in March, but in March of 2024 AD, this year, 5949, I have blacked out here where we are on this big circle calendar, and this is exciting. So for example, this blue here, because I have this all color coded. This blue here is the first age, the age of chaos. This was the time of creation till the time of the call of Abraham. So you have 4 Onas here, because each age is 2,000 years. That is split up into 4 Onas, so you have each Ona. Now every Ona, look at Ona 1 here, each Ona has 10 Jubilees in it, because a Jubilee is 50 years, 10 times 50, is 500. So these little dots in between the Ona, or these little spaces in between the Ona and the Jubilee 1 through 10 up here at the top, slightly to the right, all these little dots are each Jubilee, each 50-year period. Now, there was also 7 Shemitahs in each Jubilee. So for each one of these spaces, you get 1 Shemitah, which is this gray thing, at the very outer edge, Shemitah 1, it's all gray. And underneath that, in the green, you have 1 through 7. That section all occurs in each one of these Jubilee spaces. So once you made it, so if you're on 1, once you made it around full circle, you could move to 2, but you would still be 1 on this first blue one, and so on and so forth. So that's the first age. Then you have the second age, Age of Torah, and that's in red, and that starts at the call of Abraham and ends roughly with the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, but it really ends in 75 AD. And I go into the book and explain why. Then you have our age. And yes, the Essenes wrote about our age, and they called it the Age of Grace. Isn't that amazing? And so here's where we're at. We're on our final Ona, Ona 12. We are 1 dot to the last of our final Jubilee. And when you look at where we are in that second to last final Jubilee, we are right here, right at 49, Shemitah 7, and the 49th year, of that Jubilee. So next year we'll hit 50, and then after that we'll go to the next one, which is 1, and we'll be able to move that. We'll be able to fill in that final yellow space of our Jubilee, that final set. Now this purple one, and this is why this is so exciting, this purple one is the millennial reign. They believed that the last 1,000 years, they believed in 4 ages, but the last age was a half age. It was a millennium. So just like the week, you have, each age is 2,000 year periods. It's the same with their calendar system. So they believed in 1,000 year rest, a Sabbath. That's when Jesus returns. So the beginning of that, look how close we are. Just look at how close we are. We're on the 12th Ona, second to last Jubilee. We're definitely on the last Jubilee set, and then we're just 1 space away from the final one, from the final 50 years. So what that means, and I'm going to get into this in more detail in a little bit, but what that means is the end of the age, the end of our age should end in 2075 AD. Now, a lot of you are thinking, oh no, I don't want to wait that long until Jesus returns. Well, we have to remember, the end of the age of Torah was in 75 AD, and Jesus came a lot before that, like years, decades before that. But that age wasn't fulfilled, it wasn't completed until 75 AD. The same could very well be true for our age. Jesus could come back early in our age. We have no idea how long after the rapture the tribulation begins, because we have to remember the tribulation does not start with the rapture. It starts with the Antichrist signing of the covenant, confirming of the covenant with many. We don't know how long between the rapture and that's going to be. And if you're not pre-trib, that's totally fine. There's lots of other ways that this could work out. Say you're mid or post-trib. That's fine too, not a problem. Let's say Jesus returns early. Let's say the tribulation happens like starting next year or the year after. Whenever you want to put it. I'm not going to date set, but just whenever you want to put it. Well, let's say everything is complete, 7 years from today. Well, how long is it going to take to rebuild the world, rebuild the temple, cleanse the temple, to get the whole world on board with how the new rules are going to be under Jesus, beat their swords into plowshares? How long is that process going to take? Because I don't necessarily think Jesus is going to come down, snap his fingers, and the whole world is perfect. I think there's going to be there could be a rebuilding process, and that could take decades. Until in 2075 AD, we can finally enter in the official start of the age of the millennial reign. And, by the way, with every age, in the final Jubilee, the beginning of the next age and the end of the current age bleed together. So, to explain this, in the age of Torah, we would say the church age started probably around 32 AD, when Jesus died, when the Holy Spirit came down and indwelled believers. That was probably the time the church age started, yet it wasn't the technical final date of the age of Torah just yet. Even there was time for cleanup. Basically, there was time. There had to be a few decades to get the world ready and to get the old ways out of there. To get the old ways of the Torah and to replace it with the law of Christ. That takes time. Well, when you read the book of Ezekiel, the last chapters, from like 40 and on, we learn that there's a new law. It's the law of the temple. Now, these law, every age has its own law, but they don't contradict each other. But there are some things that are done away with and some things that aren't. But they don't contradict each other ever. It's like a progression. It's sort of like, when you think about the law of Torah and the law of Christ. You have state laws in your state. You go to your neighboring state. Most of the laws are the same, but there might be slightly different laws here and there for different reasons on minor things. Speed limits might be a little different. Their stance on, I don't know, selling alcohol on Sundays or legalization of certain substances might be different. There's differences, but then there's all-encompassing laws that go over across the whole state, like federal laws. So it's like that. I mean, it's all God's law. It's all good. It's all good for us. But we're in the age of grace, so we're to abide by the law of Christ. So there are things that national Israel were required to do that we don't have to do. For example, sacrifices. We don't have to. We're not to sacrifice for our sins anymore because that's been done and over with. So there are differences, but it's all God's law and it's all good. But they're for their own time. So that's how ages work. But there's a bleeding through effect at the end of one age and the beginning of another, where you almost can't put an exact date on it. It's like there's a transition period. Think of it like how I talked about tekufas. Tekufas aren't really dates on the calendar. They are, but they're not treated as that. They're treated as like a transition from like one season to another. It's exactly the same kind of idea. So just like the age of grace started a little bit before the technical end of the age of Torah, we might see that same thing happen with the age of grace on into the millennial reign. That, yes, technically the age of grace is supposed to end in 2075, but that doesn't mean that the millennial reign can't start to begin a little bit sooner, while the world, after Jesus takes care of everything and the world has to rebuild itself and learn all these new rules and transition to the new age. And then in the age 4, in the millennial reign, there will be a specific day where it's, okay, we are now entering this age, and there will probably be, and I wrote about this in the book, there will probably be a ceremony and all that stuff. Probably at Passover, or who knows exactly, but I speculate a little bit in the book about that. But so we have this available too, and this calendar also has the normal calendar available with it. So when you get the poster calendar, it's not just this with a gray background. It looks nicer than this. It has the Hebrew script background, and then on the bottom of it, it has your normal calendar for every month of the week. It looks really nice. You can go and look at it in the link below. But this is just the picture that I had handy on my computer. The actual file is on the website. So you can go and look at that. It's really beautiful. It looks amazing, and again, it's a great conversation piece, and it's a great study piece. Ken Johnson also has videos about this circle calendar and how it works, and I've done interviews with him. We have a free video at dailyrenegade.com, a free interview with me and Ken Johnson talking about the calendar and everything and how it all works, that you can see there. And again, if for whatever reason, if you can't find the link, just go to dailyrenegade.com. That is dailyrenegade.com, and you'll see, just scroll down a little bit, you'll see the video of me and Ken, you'll see a link to the calendar and where you can get it. But that's the basic idea of how these calendars work. But how exciting is that according to the Essenes, Jesus died in 32 AD, and we are, in 32 AD. An age is 2,000 years. The church age, maybe not officially, according to the calendar, but the church age began in 32 AD. Look how close we are. From now until 32 AD, you could fit a tribulation in there. You could fit 7 years in there. But even if not that, I mean, in the book, again, I don't set dates, but I do go through a lot of specific possibilities. And in my book, again, Lost Prophecies of Qumran, I go through several different possibilities on how this could work and still all match up perfectly with Bible prophecy and would still check all the boxes. So it's really, really exciting. So don't be discouraged. Don't think, I got to wait till 2075. I don't know if I'm going to survive that long. Don't be discouraged. Remember, Jesus came really early in their final Jubilee. He very well could come very early. He could come back very early in ours. And so we don't want to discount that, and we don't want to be worried about that. So what an exciting time to be alive. See, this is why I love prophecy, and I do fully believe that God allowed this, because this calendar was lost for centuries. I mean, this was thousands of years. This calendar was only, the texts that contained the calendar were only discovered with the Dead Sea Scrolls. And that's in the 1940s. That's not even that long ago. But they were only recently put together because the Dead Sea Scrolls are all fragmented, and it's hard to piece things together, and it takes years, like decades, to put this calendar together. And there were two missing pieces of this calendar. One was the leap week. Like, do they have a leap day like we do? Do they have a leap month like the Jewish calendar does? Or do they have something else? Well, it turns out they had a leap week. And that set everything and made everything perfect. And then also the other missing piece was the Tekufas, which that was only discovered a couple of years ago, a few years ago. It was recently discovered. So this is all cutting edge, brand new stuff exactly for our time. And if you give any weight to the Book of Enoch, the Book of Enoch does say that was written for our time, for the people that are going to be living in the last times, in the time right before the Messiah returns, and a lot of the pieces of this calendar are in the Book of Enoch. It just took a lot of people a lot of time to put it all together and make figure out how it all worked, and then backtrack it. And what they've been able to come up with is really beautiful. This is the calendar because, again, you can test it. In the book, I go through. You can look at all of the day counts in the Noah flood, and you can line it up with festival days, and it all makes sense. It all lines up perfectly on this calendar and does not on any other calendar. You can take the day counts of when Moses ascended the mountain, climbed the mountain, and all of those day counts. Those are given to us for a reason. There are so many tests that you can put on this calendar all throughout the Bible, and the prophetic ones. It even answers questions that Christians have been debating for years. Do the two witnesses come in the first half or the second half of the tribulation? This calendar answers that. It has to be the first half because there's a leap week somewhere, and that leap week means everything. And again, I detail it all in the book, but it proves that the only way that all of the day counts with the two witnesses work, and it works perfect. It works perfect. Is if it's in the first half. It answers things like why. What question I had in Revelation? When the two witnesses are killed, why are they giving gifts? It says I get celebrating in the streets and all that. I understand that, but they're giving gifts to one another because I think they're thinking of the two witnesses as like the enemies of the world, right? And the Antichrist finally kills them, and the world is giving gifts with one another. And I think back, I remember when Osama bin Laden was killed, and yeah, there were just people cheering and celebrating and stuff. Not comparing bin Laden to the two witnesses. Bin Laden was legit a bad guy, but the world thinks that the two witnesses are bad guys. But nobody gave gifts to each other, and I always thought that was weird. This calendar explains it. It's because the two witnesses are killed on Purim. And Purim is a celebration in Israel where they do celebrate in the streets and they do give gifts. So it matches up. And I mean, it ties in perfectly with the 5 months of the locusts. It's just perfect. And I'm excited about it because I've always loved prophecy. I've always absolutely been obsessed with Bible prophecy. It is the most fascinating thing in the world to me. I really have a heart for it. I think it's important. I really do believe we're living in the last days. And by the way, just going back to that Hebrews quote, when they were saying these last days, they were talking about the last days of their age. So it probably wasn't that they expected Jesus to return in their time. I think they fully knew they had another age to come because the people that accepted Jesus would have been going by Essene teaching because the Essenes were the ones that knew that it was what the Messiah was going to be. It's not that in Israel it was just this big mystery and nobody knew. Nobody knew what the Messiah was going to be. It was all a big mystery and nobody had it. That's wrong. The Pharisees and the Sadducees didn't know. They had, Sadducees basically didn't believe in anything, but the Pharisees had some weird theories about it. But the Essenes had basically what we believed. They had that basic knowledge that there would be two comings of the Messiah, and the first would happen in a certain way, and the second would happen in a certain way, and they knew that. So once Jesus came on the scenes, this is why you read in the Gospels. By the way, the reason you don't see the word Essene in the Bible is that was a later term that Josephus came up with. But the reason that you get some people in Israel that they just see Jesus and they just immediately believe, sometimes by the thousands. But then you get other times where it doesn't matter what Jesus or the apostles say, they just will not believe and they're stubborn. The stubborn ones are the Pharisees by and large, and the ones that believed easily were the Essenes because they were already expecting this to happen. They already knew the dates. They already knew when to expect. So when they see this figure come right on the time of, the Essenes had a specific prophecy pointing out exactly when all this would happen. And so when that occurred, when they saw that, they just immediately believed it. So because of that, they knew that there was going to be yet another age. So in the Bible, in the New Testament, typically when you see the end of the age, you got to look at the context, but typically, like in that passage in Hebrews, that's talking about the end of their age, the end of the age of Torah. It was their last days. It was the end of their age. So it's not that they. I don't believe it was that they were just expect. Now I think they had it in the back of their mind that Jesus could come back at any time. He could, but I don't think they necessarily expected that. I think they knew there was going to be a whole other, at least 2,000 years, a whole other age. And when you look at all of those Bible verses, and I go through them all in my book, but when you look through all those Bible verses with that context, it's like eyes open. It makes so much more sense. It adds so much more context. And that's what I love about the Dead Sea Scrolls. They don't change what's in the Bible. There's no conflict. There's no contradiction. And if there was, you would have to go with the Bible every time. Because the Dead Sea Scrolls, well, most of the Dead Sea Scrolls are the Old Testament. But the other books, the extra biblical books, Jubilees, Enoch, things like that, if there was a contradiction, you would have to go with the Bible. And I would say throw the Dead Sea Scrolls out. But I haven't found any. There's no contradiction. They're teaching the same thing. So it's really cool. And again, there's a lot more history here that I want to get into. This might end up being a long video. Okay, here's what I'm going to do, because I do got a lot. Okay, basically what I just gave you was like the crib sheet, like this is like the abridged version. I want to go into more detail about all of this, and I want to tell you some more things, and further explain some of this, and add some extra details, and especially more on the prophetic side of things. And I really want to drill into that. I really want to explain that, how this calendar explains prophecy in our age today. I want to explain that. But what we're going to do, and the reason I do this is because I never know when YouTube is going to censor anything. I've had entire channels and entire videos deleted, so we have to protect ourselves. What we're going to do is we are going to make the rest of this video members only. So what that means is if you're watching for free on YouTube or Rumble, head on over to dailyrenegade.com, and if you don't have a membership yet, get one now. It's only $10 a month or $100 a year. I suggest the $100 a year because if you're paying month to month, you're paying $120 for a year, whereas if you just pay for the year, you're getting like $20 off. You get like 2 months free that way. By the way, big announcement, I am now officially going to be updating the website soon. It'll be a brand new website. What that means for you with active memberships is when your next billing cycle comes up, you will have to re-input your payment information because we are getting rid of Wix. Right now, our website is on Wix, and I have been thoroughly unimpressed with their customer service and just with the way that the way they run their website, the way they run their hosting. So what we're going to do, we are going to start putting new episodes on the new website once the crossover happens. And you guys will still have your memberships, but when your next billing cycle comes up, you'll have to re-put in your PayPal or credit card information, whatever you're paying with. And then you'll be all set. The old episodes that are on the Wix website right now, we don't have a way to transfer all of those over, so I'm going to call that the Daily Renegade Vault. And I'm going to make those available to everybody. And because there will be a link in the new website that will go to the old website. So you'll still be able to get the old episodes and stuff. They'll just be on the old Wix website. And all new episodes from now, hopefully forever, will go on the new website, which will still be dailyrenegade.com. But there's big improvements with this. The website will function much more better. You can search for videos. You can share URLs. There's even a community tab. So there's like a mini like social media platform. It's kind of like Facebook, but you'll be able to all interact with each other, and you're not going to have to worry about trolls because I have never had anybody, and this is another reason why the membership. I've never had anybody actually pay money to be a troll. Also, why there's a membership is because Daily Renegade is technically an LLC, and the reason I did that is because if you're I did not want to go the 501c3 ministry route because you're limited on what you can say if you're 501c3. LLC, you can say whatever you want. You can say whatever you want, but that's why we have to do that. If I didn't do the membership thing, I would have had to do 501c3, I would have had to have been limited on what I can and can't say. I would have basically put myself under the government's boot and have them dictate what I can and can't say. And I would have had to rely on donations to do that. And to protect what we're doing here, to protect you guys, and to ensure that we will have the freedom to say whatever we want, even if YouTube deletes this channel or whatever, then we can always do that at Daily Renegade if it's an LLC and if it has a membership website. So that's what you're getting with your membership. But a lot more perks are coming. We're gonna have to wait a little bit on the phone app and the TV app. And I'm gonna have there is some more big news I'm gonna have to wait to talk about, though, because it's not all said and done yet. But there are some other big things coming. But that's the basics for now. So if you don't have a membership yet, that's totally fine. Go ahead and get one. And get the rest of this video and the rest of all of our other videos. Also, there are times where I will put a full video up for everybody if I feel like there's not anything in there that might get deleted. I mean, it's always hard to tell. YouTube can delete a video for anything. They deleted a mini documentary I made for my son's fight with cancer, and they used that somehow to delete my entire channel. So you just never really know. But that's why we're doing Daily Renegade the way we're doing. But you can go ahead and get one now. There's no reason to wait for the new website. I don't know exactly when it's going to be, but it's going to be very soon. I've already submitted all of the member information to Uscreen, that's where we're going with next. They've been really great, excellent with their customer service, and they've kept in contact with me. They've answered all my questions. They've just been great. So we're gonna be doing that soon. But I would not wait. For the other incentive is because I do, as much as I can, I do put full videos up on YouTube. But there's still an incentive, because with Daily Renegade, with a membership, you get early access. So, like right now, I'm recording this on Tuesday. This isn't going to air until Wednesday night, tomorrow, for me. For you, it's now. But this isn't gonna. But people, by the time you're watching this, people have already had access to this full video for an entire day and a half. So, So there's always perks with the membership, and I do as much as I can to make it worth it for you guys, so you get what you're paying for. And there's also a lot of other things that we can do with Uscreen with this new setup. We'll eventually be able to do apps, but I can put show notes in with videos if you guys want that. Every episode I do, I have show notes, and I haven't really shared them because nobody's really asked. But there is a way to attach PDFs right to the video, so you guys would have those available if you want them. Yeah, there's the community tab, which works. It looks really similar to Facebook. I'll be posting on there. You guys can talk with each other. And again, you're not going to have to worry about trolls, because the second anybody does that, I'll kick them out. I'll give them a refund and kick them out. But so far, I've never had anybody to do that, because trolls are really pathetic. They're not going to pay their own money to troll somebody. They're just not. Maybe every once in a while you get somebody who has money to throw around, but I just really don't think it's going to happen. If it does, you'll have full access to me. You'll be able to contact me and let me know, and I will handle it. Uscreen is really good about protection, so we're not going to be bombarded with bots or anything like that. And it'll really be like the community that I've been trying to build for years now, where we can really all interact with each other. You'll have your own profile, you can post comments, you can post memes, whatever you want. Have fun, fellowship with each other, and really make this like an immersive ministry. You'll have full access to me, and I'll be posting on there all the time. So it's going to be fun, and I'm very much looking forward to all of that. Okay, so once again, that is dailyrenegade.com. Go get a membership now if you don't have one already. If you do, then just hang on the line. If you do have a membership, you're probably watching this on dailyrenegade.com. So if you're watching this on dailyrenegade.com, hang on the line. We got a lot more to get to. And so I guess, yeah, that's it. All of you watching for free on YouTube and elsewhere, thank you all so much. We love you so much. And we'll see you next time. Take care and God bless.